then, okay. So I'm calling the meeting to order, the Municipal Truth and Reconciliation Committee. And this is Monday, July 19th, 2021. So we shall call the meeting to order, item number 1 on the agenda. And then item number 2 is the land acknowledgements.
Thanks, Chair. Good evening, everybody. As we start the meeting, we acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Sioux First Nation, and that Chief Bull has joined us on the meeting. That we're within Treaty 3, and that many of the communities and people we serve come from not only Treaty 3, but Treaties 5 and 9, the Anishinaabe Nation. And we acknowledge that a significant, perhaps 50% of our in-town municipal population are Indigenous people. Thanks, Chair.
All right. Okay, item number 3 on the agenda. Item number 3A is introduction of amendments to the agenda.
I haven't received any unless any committee member wants to bring some up at this time.
No? Okay, nobody bringing anything up. So we'll go on to 3B, confirmation of the agenda. Who wants to move? Mario moves and Eileen seconds. Okay, so we'll continue. Item number 4, declarations of pecuniary interest. So there's none. Then we'll move on to number 5, adoption of the minutes from June 14th, 2021 meeting. So the adoption of the minutes, I read them. They look fine. And everybody else has kind of read them. So I'm good with you, Mayor. And good with Eileen. So the mayor moves and Eileen seconds, I take it. Okay. All right. So the minutes for June 14th have been confirmed by Mayor and by Eileen. Okay. Number 6, business arising from the minutes. 6A, contact person for Equiminis Island, the update by Michelle.
Thank you, Chair Darlene. What I will do is just refer to Tiffany because she did the follow-up for me. So she will provide the update.
All right. Tiffany.
Through you, Chair, I reached out to Vera and she gave me the contact phone number. Apparently there's 4 siblings that own the island. It was passed down. It was passed down to them through their parents. And so she gave me the contact number for the daughter in Dryden, and I passed that information along to Michelle.
So we thought it would be best, so we do have that contact information. So we thought it would be best to get in touch with the family when we know a specific time or around when we want to do this celebration or acknowledgement of the island being renamed back to Equiminisc or to Equiminisc. So we'll just keep that information, and as we move forward with it, then we will contact the family to make arrangements.
That's great. Yes, Mario.
I was wondering if we were keeping Tom Terry in the loop since he brought it up.
I can mention it. Tom is part of our subcommittee on the renaming of Umfervale Park, so I can mention it to him when we meet.
Good.
I believe we have a meeting possibly this week. I can't remember.
Okay.
It's coming up anyway.
All right. So Michelle will contact Tom Terry or give him the update. Okay, great. So that's moving along. Item number 7, delegations, presentations, committee presentations. Anything new for this meeting? No? Okay. Yes, Mayor.
I apologize. Maybe I should have mentioned this in the confirmation of meeting or the agenda. We've invited Garnet to attend the meeting, and we thought it would be good just to have a bit of a debrief on the Bring Our Children Home event that was hosted in Lac Seul First Nation with Garnet attending and obviously Chief Bull. Maybe we could do it as part of the Northway Cemetery memorialization and broaden that discussion into missing the children.
So we'll add Garnet onto 8B, under 8B.
Sure.
Okay.
I think, thank you.
With the
And welcome, Garnet. Thank you for attending.
Okay. 8. Okay, so we'll just move on then to number 8, items for discussion. The first one is 8A, moving the meeting dates to the 4th Monday of every month. So Michelle, you wanna
Thank you. Through you, Chair Darlene. Following each of these meetings, our council meeting comes 2 days after, so our agenda is already out for our council meeting. So at the end of our meeting last month, we were looking at preparing motions to come to this committee to then go forward to council. But what happens is it's a month away, we prepare the motions, and then they don't get on the council agenda until another month. So it seems to be 2 months lagging to get onto the council agenda. So I was wondering if the committee was amenable to possibly trying to move the meeting date so there's more time. If we do pass motions at this committee level, then it allows me time to get a report into council to get it on the agenda for the next meeting rather than 2 months hence.
All right, so what do we do? The first, second?
I'm suggesting the 4th Monday of the month. That won't always work out for us because of the timing of our council meetings, but at least it'll give us a little bit more lead time to get things on the agenda in a more timely manner if there's any recommendations from the subcommittee.
All right, that sounds fine with me.
I think it's a reasonable request. Will we begin that August 23rd? Or when?
Yeah. So that way it will give us lead time if we had anything to present to council for the September meeting instead of waiting until October.
Okay.
So if everybody is okay with that, then that's when our next meeting date would be, was August 23rd, and then we would send out calendar invites as we progress.
All right,
Okay, thank you.
Eileen. That's okay with Eileen, I guess. Okay. All right, so 4th Monday of every month now. Okay, item number 8B, Northway Cemetery memorialization. Indigenous presentation to work with staff on this. Michelle?
Thank you, Chair Darlene. One of the things that we've been working on as staff is like how to go about, we know that it's not an issue to try and apply for funding to do the memorialization for next year. But one thing we're quickly running into, and especially given the recent events with, discovering the children that have been buried at residential school sites, and most likely that's the case here in Sioux Lookout, and we do know that we have unidentified graves in our section 1 of our Northway Cemetery as well. And Brian and I and Grace, as staff members working on this memorialization, feel that there should be some Indigenous representation from our Truth and Reconciliation Committee to work with us in bringing back a proposal to the committee, because we feel that we need that assistance. So I'm proposing that possibly a committee member volunteer to work with us to bring back a plan or an idea to the TRC for discussion.
Okay, Mayor, sorry.
I'm not volunteering, obviously. I'm volunteering Chief Bull, actually, if he's interested. I just think there would be a wonderful crossover with what the First Nation is doing to bring the chief in to this. I'm not sure. I know you're busy, Chief, but it could
Yeah,
might be able to dovetail with the work that you're doing with Pelican Falls High School, etc.
yeah, definitely a lot of work involved. Yes, I can certainly be volunteering my time. And today actually was a very somber day today. We had a funeral today. And this is another impact of intergenerational effects. So the father was buried today. He's left behind two small children, very small. And it was just gut wrenching, and to see the children there and crying, and it just brought tears to everybody's eyes, and it's to do with all these social issues in the community, drugs, alcohol, those things. They're still with us today, and these are the things that are plaguing our communities. And that's a result of residential school, the policies. It happens everywhere, right across Canada. So I will devote my time to take up the request, and I'll do my best to work with whoever I need to work with. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Chief. Was there anything else on this item, Scale?
Other than you wanted to discuss Bring Our Children Home, the gathering that happened in Lac Seul last weekend, to discuss it with the TRC committee in conjunction with this.
I'll just introduce it, but then I'd really like Garnet and Chief Bull to speak to it or talk about it. But Lac Seul hosted the event gathering, Bring Our Children Home, and I would guess, Chief Bull, that there was as many as 250 people there.
Yeah, go ahead.
And
Yeah.
Chief Bull, why don't you just go ahead? Thank you.
Okay. So, anyways, thank you for the introduction there, Mayor. Yes, there was actually at the last count, I think when we had a registration at the front, and we asked everybody to register their name, and the final tally was 307. 307 participants' names were on this registration, and we've got people from all over. Obviously, survivors showed up, and leadership, various levels of government. Yourself, you were there, and Michelle were there, and we welcome your attendance there. And although the topic itself was very heavy in the hearts of everyone, we had survivors fly in from Cat Lake and various other points. There were speeches made, and very gut-wrenching, heart-wrenching testimonies, and we had some people speak about their losses and the continued mental health issues that people experience to this day, the trauma that still is a part of our lives as survivors that we deal with every day. So, and I had a chat with Garnet after the meeting, and we felt that it was well attended, and it was very well. We had some comments from people that were there that said, how long did it take to prepare this event? And I said, well, it's just a matter of a week or two, and you guys almost prepared. Seemed like you prepared for months. I said, no, it's just people coming together and working hard, and I'm just really proud of all the people that were part of this and got it working very well. And I know Garnet was part of it, and a whole bunch of us were part of it. And it was a resounding success. And I'll let Garnet explain more what his thoughts were. Thank you, Miigwech.
All right, Garnet. Tell us about it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Chief, Mayor, and all those present, Darlene, Michelle, Muriel, and I forgot somebody there. Who else is online? Okay. Anyway, I acknowledge every one of you. Thank you also for the land acknowledgement. It means a great deal in the day of reconciliation and its efforts. So with that, I was very honored to have been played a small part in the organizing of the gathering. Much thanks to Black Soul First Nation, along with the Solica First Nations Health Authority and the Northern Anishinaabe Education Council. Both organizations have a very direct interest in terms of its involvement there at the Pelican site. You know, NNEC certainly currently operates a high school there, and then SLIPNet itself has dealt with the legacy of the residential school for a long time. So now, having said that, we all know about the findings of the unmarked graves and in Western Canada mostly at the moment. There will be others as more sites are being explored as we go on. I think one of the first things is, you know, we all hear about the legacy of the residential school and its impacts on survivors, their families, and the communities, including intergenerational effects. We all hear about that. We hear about other effects in addition to physical and sexual abuse. We hear about the psychological, the mental abuses that went on, the spiritual and the cultural abuses, and so on. But in terms of children who never made it home, in terms of those who were lost in the system, never to be heard of again, I think as survivors and as those who the families, we've known that all along. And it seems to me that what's happened in the last few months is certainly a validation of what has gone on and what the TRC itself has tried to delve into during its mandate, knowing that the numbers were high as 4,100 students that they documented. And in my hand right now, I have a booklet which I just received about an hour ago. It's called the National Student Memorial Register, and I will drop you off a copy for the committee. And what it is a breakdown of all the residential schools with all the students who went missing. And that just was released by the TRC just recently. So again, I just got this in the mail. I will make sure that the committee gets a copy. I will drop it off at the municipal office. But I think this whole thing is certainly it's a really complicated situation that we're embarking upon. And when I say we, I'm not just talking about the students or survivors or families. I'm talking about Canada. I'm talking about us as a nation. Because at our gathering, as Chief mentioned, we certainly had government representatives there, both federal and provincial, municipal, and First Nations. But we also had at least a church from the Anglican Church was there, and they ran residential schools. They were there, and we had a former employee of one of the Mennonite schools there, and but in many ways, at least in this area, it was and it is the beginning of a long process. It's going to take a long time. I think we are going into areas of the unknown, if you will, because it's really complicated. When we talk about searching and researching, we're talking about technology that is new. We're talking about the ground penetrating radar technology. Not only are we talking about the technology, but we're also talking about other legal and other matters that might come into the picture, such as the role of the coroners, for example, the role of scientists, forensic scientists, and so on. There is so much there that we are getting into a lot of the unknowns, and what if there's a lot of what ifs. What if you want to search the area not only on the residential school site? Let's say somebody may have gone missing along the CN rail line. What do we do in those kinds of situations? And I'm not talking about Pelican. There were many other sites across Canada that have similar situations. I think that's not even talking about the cultural elements of this whole thing, as well as some of the spiritual significance. We are delving into areas of spirituality and religious practices of people. So we are going into this with many different things. And so I think the important thing is last week we were able to engage in a dialogue. Really, for me, it was very exploratory, and it was very preliminary, realizing that there's a lot of work out there. And we're not just talking about Pelican. We're talking about other residential schools in Northwestern Ontario where students, from this area. I know in Lac Seul, kids went to school in Kenora, they went to school in McIntosh, they went to school as far away as Brantford and Sault Ste. Marie, Xinhua. So, I think there needs to be a network of residential schools. Like there were 18 in Ontario alone, 9 of which were in Northwestern Ontario. So, so there's a lot there, and I think people are committed to working together, to come together and see how we move forward and how best we move forward with all the players. I think also related to a residential school, we certainly have people who died and at the zone hospital here, at the old what they call the Indian hospital, and there are many questions there that still need to be worked on, and so on. So there's a lot of work in relation to the residential school and what happened, let's say, with students who may have been sent away to Solihull to the hospital there or to Fort William to the sanatorium around the 1950, around that time, and even before that. So there's a lot there, and I think I'll just leave it at that. I think it was a good discussion. I certainly left the meeting with was a lot more questions than I went in there with. And I think so did many, which is only indicates how complicated this thing will be. That we should be prepared to be engaged for a long time. And that really, this is a national tragedy, really, that affects us right here in Solihull in the region as well. So I'll leave it at that. And it was a very good gathering. At the same time, it was a very heavy gathering. But there's one thing I can honestly say. When we had our first gathering in 1997 here in Pelican, and this is before anything was happening. At that time, disclosures of abuse were just starting to happen, and at that time, the pain was so raw you could cut it with a knife. Given the heaviness of this particular topic with the unmarked graves and the missing children, even though that's a very heavy topic, you could see survivors who were at the gathering last week, how far they've journeyed. Yes, it was heavy, but my take on it in observing the healing journeys of so many in the last 30 years is that our people are getting stronger, which is really good to see. And I just wanted to share that in a positive way, in a positive note, that we have moved forward in so many ways, and yet we have so much work to do. So I'll leave it at that. Okay? Miigwech. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you, Garnet. I don't want to take chair. You're Darlene. You're the chair, so might be good. There might be people who might want to add to the discussion here as well.
Hi, Chair, can I make a
Mario,
point?
yeah.
Yeah, just to add a little further to the comments made by others. I guess people sometimes ask, how does Sioux tie into this? But I think it's through the SLIFNA organization, and sometimes what happened with the children that were at Pelican when they got ill, obviously they'd have to go to the hospital, and the nearest hospital would have been Sioux Lookout. And then sadly, some of them may have succumbed to their illness, and they would have been buried at the cemetery in Sioux Lookout. So that's where the connection is. And I think all of us know that. So that's why we need to have that discussion with the town, the municipality, and we all need to be involved and work together to search the cemetery as well. And I'm not sure how the town folk would perceive us looking there, but we may get some resistance perhaps, or I'm not sure. That's a very delicate thing to talk about, and we need to do it in a good, respectful manner, I think. But like Garnet said, it needs to be thought very methodically, carefully, and respecting people's emotions as well and well-being. I'll just leave it at that, and thank you, Garnet, for sharing, and I'll stop there. Miigwech.
Okay, Mario, next.
All I wanted to say is that I ended up watching Bring Our Children Home after 1 o'clock, and I thought it was for me, it was very moving and eye-opening for sure. I found out after 1 o'clock, and the only comment I have is for individuals like myself, who want to learn, who want to understand, who want to reconcile or do my part. How do I find out about these? Like a friend told me about this, and I'm really glad they did, because at least I got to watch half of it. I would have loved to watch the whole thing. I would love to go to a powwow, or I would love to partake more often. How does the general public become involved and become informed on all of this? It would be nice if, you know, I know we had a lot of people that attended and watched, and I thought it was really great, but I still feel that there's other people out there that want to learn and understand. And is there a way that we can advertise these public gatherings so that we can further educate people in Sioux Lookout? That's it.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good good idea. Good suggestion. I know for our Orange Shirt Day walk, we always try to advertise it ahead of time, so that the public can come out, or survivors and the descendants can come and take part in it. Whoever wants to come. So yeah, I agree that some events should have more advertising time, I guess. And I'm sure if we had more events done by different organizations, you'd probably find that there are a lot of people who want to come out and learn. I know even before we had been talking a couple of months ago that there is a need probably to start up a circles, and start survivors circles, to start those again, those healing circles. So maybe we can do things like that, or we could even do intergenerationals. Maybe get them together, see what they say, see what they have to say. Different events, yeah, and or educational events, like you say, would be good. So maybe that'll be part of the future TRC work. Okay. And yeah, I guess if this is going to be around for a long time, and bringing the children home, the unmarked graves, I have a feeling the TRC committee will be around for a very long time, and hopefully the connection between Slifna, the First Nations, and the town, the municipality, that connection is made stronger. And I'm thinking that because Slifna was there and had a major part in that bringing the children home gathering, I think that's the beginning for Northern First Nations to start coming out. Even on this committee, I'm always thinking that we need more Northern representation, more Northern, remote communities represented on this committee. And so I'm trying to think and trying to ask people to come out, but hopefully through the Slifna, and maybe we'll see it more through NAN somehow. That we'll have more representation. I can't think of anybody else who will take the time to participate in this committee. So that's, yes, Michelle, sorry.
Just to add to that through you, Chair Darlene, I had a conversation, I received an email from Tanya Ferneri because she's changed her role within NAN, but she's still very much involved. And if committee members remember, she came to, I think, one or two meetings. I think it was pre-COVID, because I remember it was, we were in person in the council chambers, and with reference to the memorial discussions around the memorialization at the section 1 of our Northway Cemetery. And she had indicated I guess there was a lack of communication on their end, because we were looking for a NAN rep. And so I indicated to her that we are still looking for a NAN rep on our committee. So she was very much interested, and also mentioned somebody else's name that works for NAN. I can't remember, it escapes me at this time, but So what I suggested is that we send them an application just to do the formal process, and that they fill it out and send it back, and then we can appoint them through the formal process at council. So in the near future, we should have a representation from Nan. And also too, I talked to her because they're also interested in trying to get the city of Thunder Bay to start a Truth and Reconciliation Committee as well. That was quite interesting. So we had quite the chat, and so I just wanted to let the committee know that we should have some representation in the near future on the committee.
Okay. All right. I think too, when we talk more and bring more about the Northway Cemetery, about the names that are associated with some of those graves, and then the number of unknowns that are in there. I think once you start unveiling that information, people are going to become more interested, and they may come forward and start participating in the meetings or the events and whatever will be leading up to the memorialization event. So, but like we say, it has to be done in such a way that it's, keeps in mind the health of the people that are involved, or the families of some of those students that we know of. Sort of like how the missing and murdered families are handled. Um, the workers will be there for them to support them. And in the same way here, we need to keep in mind that we do have the Treaty 3 and also the NAN who do the residential school health support programs. So they could be invited to sit in at any event, just to make sure that people are okay during the event. Because we're dealing with trauma. Yes, Mayor. Okay.
Thanks, Chair. I just want to acknowledge Garnet and Chief Bull's words about the Bringing Our Children Home event, and how what an impression it made on me. In some ways, a feeling of inadequacy in the morning part. I was sitting up at the front with the other government, the provincial and municipal and federal government. And then when some of the people started telling their stories, it was they were telling it directly to us. It makes quite the impression. I'm struck always at these events at the grace and dignity of the people of the victims and their families. I'm also struck by the respect shown by others. I'd just like to thank Chief Bull for his approach too. And I know in terms of these unmarked burials, this, as Garnet said, we're in this for the long haul here. But Chief Bull's approach of being, if I can say, systematic, careful. It's not go in there with excavators and all guns blazing. It's doing it in a very systematic way, and it may take time. And during the course of that, it will certainly become a focus, and the municipality will continue to seek and rely on Indigenous leadership to lead us and to work with us and guide us in our participation in this. So that's, and I think that this committee and or subcommittees can be very useful that way. And we will continue to do the other things we're doing on the TRC. We won't. Those will carry on, but this is with us for a long haul, and I think there's it's got the nation's attention and enough attention that slowly things will happen here. So thank you. And I know, Michelle, you attended the event as well. I'm not sure if you had any impressions you wanted to give.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that you didn't see the whole day, Mario, because I was there and I struggled to understand. Admittedly, I struggled to understand sometimes what, the residential school survivors have gone through. And it certainly opened up my eyes being there and hearing the first account testimonies of some of the people and how it affected them, and not only affected them personally, but how they acted or how they raised their children moving forward. And I remember Chief Lorraine Crane's speech when she spoke about how she did things a certain way and realized that's how she had learned it for so many years, and it was ingrained in her head, and that's not necessarily the way that she wanted to raise her children or do things a certain way at home. So it kind of resonated with me, and it was very interesting to hear the stories, and it pulled at my heartstrings, and I want to learn more and understand more.
Thank you.
Darlene, could I ask
Garnet?
you-
Yes, Garnet?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you to the previous speakers. I just wanted to comment about how can we learn more, or how can we engage more. First of all, I want to say the findings of 215 remains, if you will, camels, and the other findings, you know, that has really spoke to the nation. That has woken up Canada to take heed and to really pay attention to a national tragedy. We talk about our collective history. We talk about our shared history. This is our history as a nation. So I think I certainly, in my time, I have never seen a country respond in the way that it has. On TV, looking at Parliament Hill, for example, on July the 1st, the Sea of Orange on Parliament Hill. The Sea of Orange that we've seen at different locations, people wearing T-shirts, people bringing little shoes and setting up memorials across the country. I've never seen a country so mobilized by such a heavy topic as this. And so I think, you know, really the momentum is there, and I really appreciate Mario asking the question, you know, how can I learn more? And I think that is, it's incumbent upon this committee and this community to engage in some educational awareness workshops. And I would like to see that sooner rather than later, as the discussion is starting to take shape, so that people really understand. I can give you an example. About 2 weeks ago, I got a call from somebody I used to go to school with in grade 6. He doesn't live in the community anymore, but he went to school with us in grade 6, and he was a non-Aboriginal. His parents lived in Solacard. He grew up here with us that went to residential school while we went to Central and Wellington schools. And you remember that how we were, for lack of a better word, how we were different as Anishinaabe students. And he said to me, I'm finally getting it. He said, I'm finally starting to understand what this is all about. And this is in relation to the Kamloops story. And so, you know, I think I'd really like to see some kind of an engagement or some kind of a awareness session sooner rather than later, so that people can understand. I also am getting calls with people saying, how can I help? How can I help? Well, I don't really have any immediate solutions. of how people can help, including making contributions to set up funds and so on. And so there are people out there who are very interested in learning, who want to become part of reconciliation, who want to really be engaged and want to learn. And I think this committee needs to respond to those requests that are out there. I'm sure you have others that have asked for the same thing. So I think that's really good. That maybe sometime in September it will be really nice to have a community session, a community open house on this topic. And have an evening of discussion, for example. And there are people in the community that are well versed on the topic to talk about it, you know, survivors and others, and perhaps even church representatives. This is something that I think should be done, and I think it needs to be done soon. So I just wanted to offer that and issue that challenge, I guess. So I'll leave it at that. Move on.
Well, the TRC, the National TRC organization, they do Truth and Reconciliation Week that week, you know, from September something to the 30th. I think during that week would be a good time to have educational events, have different organizations maybe do an event, sort of like how the Blueberry Festival is done by different people, different events. You know, it's something simple as, I don't know, Bannock burgers in one place, something like that, or a film night. You could show a movie outside the library, you know, you could have a couple of films shown that week. Yeah, we could pull together something for the week, as well as
Yeah.
having the Orange Shirt Day walk. You could also do a ceremonial feast to kick off that week at Pelican. You know, I think we could probably do a lot of things. Yeah.
Just to also keep in mind, this September 30th is going to be the actual first national holiday of healing and reconciliation. I forget the name of it really, but it is legislated now, and so it is national holiday of reconciliation.
Okay.
So I think we're zeroing in on something here that's workable, and really I like what I'm hearing. Yeah,
Could do something
so
like that.
around the end of September.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Mayor? Yes.
Since that's such a short time period, and I know the capacity of the Lac Sioux First Nation, perhaps we could co-host with Lac Sioux and they can come in and help us.
Mhm.
But perhaps it might be a nice act, you know, of a show of reconciliation if it's a co-hosted event, and we could have events both in the municipality and at the First Nation. Just a thought for discussion.
And Pelican. Okay. Yes, Chief.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something. At that event had on the 14th, there was a Treaty 3 table, a booth that was set up, and it had all this information on these big boards, and that information should be taken down and put into some form of a pamphlet or and given out to people. And I think that information that's in there is very informative. It talks about how many schools, everything is in those displays. I didn't get a chance to read all of it, but if there's a way we could get that information into a pamphlet, I know it's going to cost probably some money, but you know, we're willing to help out with payments, paying somebody to get that information, and even talking to Treaty 3 and saying, can you condense this or fix it up so we can give it to the average First Nation, whoever wants information, we can have them as a handout perhaps. Just a thought.
Okay. Yes, Michelle?
Chief Bull, if we can get the contact information for who brought those in, staff here at the municipality can follow up if you'd like.
I can get you the name of that individual.
Okay,
There was about 3 women showed up with all that information, and a lot of it is very informative in terms of there's a 1-pager that talked about how many deaths were in each school, and like, I mean, those kind of things that are that I didn't know about, and so I think it's good that we should get in with them and see if we can prepare for that National Day of Mourning that's coming up in September, and just distribute pamphlets on behalf of the TRC committee.
so if you can follow up and get that contact information, we'll get in touch with them and see what information we can get, and perhaps look at making those pamphlets.
Yeah. All
Thank
right,
you.
Lynn? You have your hand up, Lynn?
Yes, I do. I want to thank the mayor for suggesting a co-hosted event with, how do I get my hand down? With Lac Sioux. One thing I noticed about when it comes to education and awareness of Indigenous issues, more than often, it is not with the settler or colonial descendant populations, when in fact, it's because of the settlers and the colonial systemic ways of operating operating systems, period, education, social services, health services. It's the First Nations people who have to learn to jump through hoops and to who have conflict with the systems. And it's seen as an Indian problem. It's not an Indian problem. It's a systemic problem. It's a problem that originated because this land was taken from the Indigenous people, and the Indigenous people were put in a situation where they had to navigate and adapt in a society that was not theirs. So it's very important that the mayor, the Honorable Mayor, that this is a collaborative effort of awareness and education. And I think it would be, in my mind, it would be helpful if we had some non-Indigenous people who collaborated with some of our experts in the Indigenous community about residential schools and the 60 scoop and everything. I know there's professors of universities. I'm aware that the high school doesn't have any Indigenous staff, but they do offer Native Studies courses. Perhaps we can approach Sioux North, the faculty there, to bring forth some presentations or projects that would allow the fold in of regular Sioux Lookout citizens. Because at these kind of events, I always see Indigenous people. And I hear about non-Indigenous people who want to know more and be involved, but they're not there. It's always the Indigenous people who are holding up these education and awareness campaigns. So I mean, like I keep saying, Sioux Lookout has an opportunity to show Canada what is possible in terms of collaboration, cooperation, a movement towards reconciliation. and I want to see more, like the Lions Club. Why can't we get the Lions Club involved in doing research too on sort of like from their perspective, like the story that that Michelle shared and what Mario shared and Garnet shared about having somebody, talking with somebody who's not of Indigenous descent, and like gaining a little bit of understanding. I want to focus on that also. That has to be focused on just as much as Indigenous people getting up and doing the, I was going to say pounding on the drum. That's a bad analogy or metaphor. But thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much for just stating that it's an opportunity for collaboration. Anyway.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. Anybody else? Yes, Eileen?
Quite a number of times the Sioux Anti-Racism Committee did some education events using the Kairos blanket exercise as a beginning for discussion, and that was done with quite a number of different groups, including schools and community members, and I think maybe one of the last ones that I remember was I think it was with a group of teachers who were going to be it was at the beginning of the school year, and it was part of the orientation. But some, I think there's newer versions of that. That might be a helpful tool for providing some general education. I'm sorry Victor's not on this call because I was talking with Terry Lynn Jewell, and she said that Victor had called her about the blanket exercise. So he must have been thinking about how to use that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that was just a thought that might be something that could be done during the week leading up to September 30th.
Yes, Mayor?
Yeah, some great ideas. Thanks, Chair. And I really liked your idea. First, I was surprised when you said Blueberry Festival, but the idea you were putting out was a series of small events. Rather, given the time frame here, it'd be very hard to organize one big, large event. But if we say we want to have, it's 10, 15, 20 small events like the Blueberry Festival, and each one has its own organizing committee, so to speak. And then there will be an umbrella agency. I think then it becomes doable, and I think that's a way of engaging more people as well, both the Indigenous, non-Indigenous agencies, etc. That there may be time to put something together.
Okay. All right. Yes. Haley.
I've another question about the burials. Could I ask that just now? We know that there are unidentified graves in the north part of Northway, and there's certainly been a lot of discussion about burials on the grounds at Pelican School. What about the area to the east of the Northway Cemetery? So that would have been south of the Old Zone Hospital. Has that ever been looked at in terms of could there have been burials there? And is that something that maybe should be explored?
Yes, Mayor?
I think definitely, but I also think that is federal land, and I believe that Chief Bull has already indicated about the old hospital site. So I think that would be Indigenous led directly with possibly the federal government because it is federal land. That's my thought. I'm not sure what Chief Bull or others think.
Yes, Mario?
My only comment is in 2001, we did bring the federal government in our investigation. And at that time, and I forget his name, geez, I brought it up earlier, and what he was going to do was he was going to look into it, the possibility of burials on zone hospital land. And I do believe this committee was going to check with this guy, and I don't think we've ever followed up with him, but I know that he was involved. And he's we did a transfer in departments back then, and it was lost. But I still think it would be advantageous to consult with him. I can give you his name. I'm just an old guy and I forget names, but he was a very good man, and I'm awfully sure that he followed up something.
Okay. All right. So Mario, you can look back and see if we can find that name then. And that's about the zone hospital area. Okay. I think we're done discussing the Northway Cemetery memorialization. Is that correct? Which kind of led us into what happened last week in Sioux with the that gathering for the bringing the children home, and which led us to talk a little bit more about September 30th or Shirt Day around that time, and the week leading up to that September 30th date as an education week here in Sioux. So we'll do a little bit more emailing, maybe ideas into Michelle for anybody who may have some ideas for events for that week, or any agencies who might be interested in putting something together. That would help us a lot, and involve Treaty 3 with the historical information on residential schools, and providing maybe a booklet of those large Treaty 3 displays, residential school displays. I think that's through their museum or something that these displays are lent out. Okay, so I guess we'll just continue on then, and we'll see where we can go with all that. And we know that Indigenous representation will work with the staff somehow. So that'll move along. Okay. All right. So we'll just go on to the next item on the agenda, which is 8C, the MTO signs update by Michelle.
Thank you, through you, Chair Darlene. At the last meeting, there were a number of motions that were suggested to come forward to this meeting. So the first one is the MTO signs, and the signs that we're referring to are the population signs coming into town. So the motion reads that the Truth and Reconciliation Committee recommend to Council to change the MTO population signs to include the Ojibwe name for Sioux Lookout. So we need a mover and a seconder to discuss.
Okay. Mayor moves. Aileen second. Okay. All right, 8D. Are we done with 8C?
Just one question of the committee. When we talk about the Ojibwe name for Sioux Lookout, are we talking about the alphabet, the I don't even know how to say it, the word using the English letters, or are we talking about syllabics, or both?
I think, Michelle, why don't you could bring this one back, but it's syllabics or I think some Indigenous input here from the Indigenous members would be good. If not now, bring back some options for us after consideration for the next meeting, or how do you want to proceed?
If it's for the next meeting, that's just going to delay it even longer. I've already had a conversation with MTO about this, so they're prepared to work with us. And when I brought up the idea, they seemed to think it was good, although I didn't say, you know, there is only so much room on the sign. I'm not sure if they would go with, you know, all three, but that's why I'm asking for input from the committee, whether or not you think it should be the syllabics or the English alphabet spelling of Sioux Lookout in Ojibwe.
Amy?
I would like to see both the Roman orthography and the syllabics. There's, you know, up at the hospital, the big sign as you come in has. Oh, it doesn't have. No, it doesn't have it in or does it? I can't remember whether it's syllabics or. Oh, anyway, just because there's a lot of signs in syllabics, it would be good to have that too.
Yeah, the only thing is I don't know, these are MTO signs, so I don't know whether they will allow all that on the population sign. So that's why I'm saying we can try to have both, but if there was one or the other, I'm looking for input from the committee, which would you prefer if we can't have both?
This is Lynn here.
Yes,
And I'll,
Lynn?
I'll talk to you from a Southerner's perspective, okay? A person who has moved to Sioux Lookout. And I would like all the citizens of Sioux Lookout to try to pronounce and use the Anishinaabemowin name. And sometimes it helps for non-speakers to see the Romanography. It's helpful. And just from my perspective as a Southerner, I'd be willing, you know, to stop and sound it out. Like I do every time we walk by the library. I stop and I try to sound it out and try to remember it. Syllabics, I have no idea how to read that. Honestly, I know the symbols are by sound, and you would have to know the syllabic structure to be able to read it. So that's just, yeah, from my view. I'd like to see it in, is it called Romanography? Yeah.
I'm not sure. I didn't know the right wording for it, but thank you for that, because now I know what to say when I'm referring it to that way.
All right, Garnet? Yes, Garnet.
Thank you. I know my part of the agenda is over, but if I can contribute, that will be, please permit me. I think I tend to agree with Lynn. One of the things is about syllabics. It's almost becoming a generational thing now. It used to be really common for people to read syllabics. It's becoming less and less now. And people are using Roman orthography more, particularly when they learn the language. Also, with Roman or with English letters, let's say, it's really easy to identify words by sight. With syllabics, you have to stop and sound out every syllable or every syllabic. in order to see what it says. And by the time you drive by there, you run out of time. So, I would at least as a gesture to recognize Anishinaabe language, Roman orthography would be great. Although syllabics would be great too, but it is slowly becoming a little less relied on these days. I mean, the elders would probably not be happy with me saying this, but also a lot of the elders now read Roman orthography. Those are just my comments. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Yes, Mayor.
Thanks, Chair. My observation of highway signs is, and I think about advertisers, putting too much information on the sign makes it virtually useless. I think you have to, if you want to have impact, try and keep less is more, I think. So if it's Roman orthography, then keep it at that. And then you'd have Sioux Lookout population and Roman orthography, whatever the sequence is. And Lynn Marie, I'm going to give it a go as one and noun gang. One and noun gang. Go ahead, Darlene. I've heard you try to wrap your tongue around it too.
Yeah, one and noun gang.
That's what I said, isn't it? Maybe not.
And next week it'll be Michelle's turn.
I'm not tackling that, but I'm pretty good at with KI because I practiced for months. Or at least I think I am.
That's good.
Kitchenamegu Sibin and Wog.
All right. Yeah. Well, you can do one and noun gang.
Oh, I don't know. I can't hear your syllables there, so
Okay. Yes.
I'll practice for next meeting.
Okay. Chief, yes.
Yeah, I just had a comment. Years ago, we applied to MTO to have our names on the roads as well. It was not until recently that we were approved, and nobody knew how to Lac Sioux. We said, we want to sign at Denarwick, we want to sign at 5 Mile, we want to sign in Hudson, we want to, so there's a process involved in terms of working with MTO, and they have their policies, they have all kinds of things that the mayor mentioned. That so one of the things we said was, what we're going to call ourselves. That's the thing, that issue that the First Nation had to consider. Are we going to call ourselves Obishikokang, or we're going to call ourselves Lac Sioux? So we said, well, you know, then we have all kinds of people coming into Lac Sioux, particularly tourists, and they see Obishikokang and say, where's that? You know, but if you put Lac Sioux there, then obviously they'll make it into Lac Sioux. But so I think what's going to happen is you're going to be allowed to only have one name, not two. And I've seen First Nations, when you go to Kenora in particular, there's Indian names. Of some of the names are so long that they have to use almost two of these lines on the name. Shoal Lake, for example, pronounced. But so I think for me, I think it doesn't. We need to have a name, I guess, that people can understand, and I respect our language very well, but very much so. But I think at the end of the day, we're going to have to decide which sign are we going to have. Want a noun gang, or I guess have it in syllabics, or I guess I mean it's food for thought, I guess, at the moment for me. I got to think about it and talk to the committee. Our committee is made up of Garnet, myself, and Eileen, I believe. So maybe that's something we can have the committee consider, have more discussions around that.
Yes, Mayor. Yeah.
Michelle, you can correct me, but my understanding is that MTO has said we could have both the English Sioux Lookout, the population, and the indigenous name. Is that correct, Michelle?
It was a preliminary discussion, but they didn't say no when I spoke to them.
Oh, okay.
So,
And-
so
do
the
have-
idea was that we were going to go back after we proposed this to the committee and have it approved by council, because there will be a cost involved, because they will do the signage for us, but I believe there's a cost. And at least the last time we had, not necessarily adding the indigenous word for Sioux Lookout on the sign, but you'll notice a lot of municipalities are, or towns are changing their signage to include their logo or a tagline on the bottom. So that's kind of what I was thinking. If we're going to update our signs to add our logo and tagline, why not add the indigenous wording for Sioux Lookout as well? So when I spoke to MTO, they seemed amenable, like to discuss it moving forward. It's just that I don't have the authority to do that until I get it, that authority from council. The Truth and Reconciliation recommendation to council, and then to authorize staff to move forward on it.
Yes, Mayor, yeah.
We do have, Michelle, we applied for a delegation with the Minister of Transportation at the AMO conference in August, and we received confirmation that we have that. And I think we have a pretty good relation with Minister Carolyn Mulrooney now, because we've met with her 3 or 4. So in August, we can also promote ministerial approval from the top down.
Right.
I guess you'd have to also include the information that Wananaungang is not the translation of Sioux Lookout, because Sioux Lookout, if it's translated into Ojibwe, would be something like, what would it be? Garnet Bonnet?
Lake of Bays or Sandy Beaches?
No?
No, so actually, Darlene's right. Sioux Lookout, historically, the area has the town has been called Wananaungang, which means roughly translated sort of like a sandy beach bay or something like that, or sandy beaches, lake of sandy beaches, something like that. Wananaungang. Okay. Now, if you want to look at the point of land that we call Sioux Mountain, that is called Pono Ashawabiwin, which actually translates into Sioux Lookout. That the point of lookout is Sioux Mountain. That is the real Sioux Lookout there. But traditional
Say that again.
Pono Ashawabiwin. Pon is our word for Sioux, right? Comes from the word Pawnee. Pawnee Ashawabiwin. Sioux Lookout. Ashawabiwin is a lookout point, right?
The lookout, yeah. So that is the actual translation for the English Sioux Lookout.
That's right.
But the traditional name was Wananaungang, which was what it was. It had been called this area like that for thousands of years before.
Yeah,
So-
that's right.
Yes.
So coming from the committee, which would be preferable? Would it be the literal translation or the traditional?
The traditional, I think.
The traditional?
Yeah.
The
Okay.
one now,
Yeah.
that's what people call it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But in
So
any written material, you would have to kind of explain that Wananaungang is not the actual translation of Sioux Lookout. Okay. Aileen? Yes.
Well, I'm realizing there's a limit to what the MTO sign would be, but it sounds like at some other place there would be signage that the town could put up that would explain, Sioux Lookout and give the Ojibwe translation of that.
Black or something, yeah.
One in Wangang, sorry, and Bay of Sandy Beaches, yeah, and that could then have the syllabics on it as well. But
Yeah.
obviously for the MTO, the simpler the better, and then
Okay,
we can add our own.
Good idea, plaque or something.
Yeah,
All right. Okay, so now we're on to, so we're done with that. I think everybody prefers the Roman orthography of the one noun gang for now. Okay, what else do we need to do there? Anything?
That's it.
Okay. Okay, number D, 8D, wayfinding signs recommendation to council. Michelle, again?
So the motion reads that the Truth and Reconciliation Committee recommend to council to include the Ojibwe wording on all municipal wayfinding signs. So not necessarily on the signs because there's no room. So it would have to be incorporated as a separate sign, but kind of on the same row somehow. So that is the motion that was asked to be brought forward from our last meeting. We need even a mover and a secondary chair.
Okay. So wayfinding signs, everybody understand that one? Okay. So in Ojibwe, for these signs, anybody move that? Who wants to move?
Me, I can second.
Lynn? Oh no, Candace.
So who moved that? Sorry, Darlene?
Mario?
Mario? Okay.
Yeah, Mario moved it and Candace said she'll second. Okay. 8D, the airport sign recommendation to council. Michelle.
That the Truth and Reconciliation Committee recommend to council to oh boy, second, sorry. To include the Ojibwe wording to denote Sioux Lookout Airport on the airport terminal building.
So another motion needed there, and I now who wants to
would
move?
that, sorry, just to clarify, would that then be the Roman orthography of Bay of Sandy Beach?
I think that all of our signage currently is all in syllabics in English. So in keeping with the theme, I think it would be syllabics. I'd have to check, but I don't think it is in the format that you're mentioning.
The airport sign. Yeah. Okay.
They used to be, yeah, they used to be just in syllabics. But
And I think it still is because all of our signs on the air side and in the building, I believe, are just English and syllabics. I'd have to check again, Eileen, but I'm pretty sure that that's what it is.
yeah, I think so. But then again, thinking that, you know, as Garnet said, not so many people know the syllabics, so maybe having it in Roman orthography as well. We could go to the dump and find the old sign and bring it back.
You go, I'll stand behind you while you look.
When you say we, I assume you're leading the charge and we'll watch you. Thanks, Steve.
I love dumpster diving, yes.
You're gonna have to fight those bears.
I want company then.
Okay, so what do we do here? We need a motion.
A mover and a seconder.
Mover. Aileen moves. And who wants a second? Mayor second. Okay. All right, so that takes care of 8D. Now we're on to 8F. The renaming of Centennial Park, Mayor Doug Lawrence.
All I wanted to do really was just, I had brought it up in an article I put in the paper. I think we discussed this at the last meeting. And I received a letter from a local citizen with a viewpoint that we should stick with history. I think that's been copied to the committee through with the agenda. Is that right, Michelle? Yeah.
Correct.
So just as Chief Bull had said, I think not everything will. I think we have to respectfully take everybody's opinions and thoughts into play, but nothing's happening here yet. It was a proposal, and we will see whether this committee at some point in time wants to recommend to council when we perhaps are a bit more concrete with moving ahead with something for Centennial Park, as it is now called, to renaming it to Reconciliation Park. Just, it was an idea I had, and I still think it has great value, and we'll just for future. But just, I think the letter was provided, and I wanted to pass it on to the committee. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
That's all I had on this topic.
We'll
For now.
defer
For
that
now.
to next year or something. Okay. All right. Now, and then we'll go on to the work plan.
So through you, Chair Darlene, the work plan is there just as an update from any subsequent things that have happened from the last meeting. And we will also be including some of the items that we discussed this evening moving forward with reference to signage. Once council if council considers it and approves it, then we'll be adding that to part of our work plan.
Okay.
And just to update the committee too, sorry, I did meet with representatives from MTO regarding Umferville Park. They wanted a sense of what the committee was looking to do to change the name. So we had quite a good discussion. It was indicated that there is signage in the park, and that if anything if we wanted any of that signage to change, that's not through the province, that's through the federal government. So we'd have to talk to Parks Canada as well. So I received more information on that, and so moving forward as the committee works towards the subcommittee of the Truth and Reconciliation Committee for the purpose of renaming Umferville Park. I'll be updating the committee on that information I received from my meeting, and as we move forward, we'll be engaging the right authorities with reference to signage.
Okay. All right. Anything else on the work plan? No. Garnet, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just a little small comment. I noticed in the plan you are going to be speaking with or engaging with the Anishinaabe Economic Friendship Center. Am I?
Yes.
Okay. I'm also wondering if some discussion could also take place with what used to be called the Solocaut Coalition for Healing and Reconciliation. That was a group of survivors, along with church representatives and interested citizens, and they did a lot of work, such as creating awareness. They did a lot of activities in relation to residential school issue, and it's really relevant to what this committee is doing. So I'm not so sure who used to be involved. I mean, Aileen used to be involved from the United Church. I'm going back maybe about 10 years ago now. But I really think that they would add value to the conversation. That's all.
The Coalition for Healing and Reconciliation was part of the Solocaut Anti-Racism Committee,
No, it wasn't.
wasn't it?
No. there was a coalition that any funding that we got went through Clark. But the coalition was a separate entity, but we used Clark to administer any funds we had. That's the only association we had with them.
Okay.
Yeah. Right, Aileen, I don't know, you were there too.
Yeah, I was just yeah, I was just looking into my file on the coalition. Yeah, I mean, some of the people were originally part of SLARC, but yeah, it was a group of people that came together specifically to do that piece of work. And some of the people are still in town, and a few people have moved further away. But so, Garnet, are you suggesting that we connect with, kind of resurrect that group again?
I just think that there were a lot of people there that were involved. You know, going back to the discussion earlier about organizing something around September 30th, for example, there are a lot of people from that committee still that would come forward to help organize events, that kind of. And so I think they would, those people would add value to what it is that they'd like to see happening in terms of community events and that kind of thing. It was a lot of doing education awareness on residential school. There was, I mean, the committee did bring in Senator Sinclair, for example. We did a number of workshops. We did a number of book launches. We kicked off the National Day of Healing and Reconciliation one time at the Friendship Center. We did a lot of things like that. And I can't remember who was all there. You're right. People like David Dubuis was there. He did a lot, and he's passed on. And so there were churches, survivors, and citizens that were involved that still want to be involved somehow. And I think they need to be tapped. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, Eileen. Yes.
Well, maybe Garnet, you and I can look at that and maybe kind of make a list of those people and see if they would like to come together to do some of that, to do something for September, because there's certainly a few people still around. And that booklet, Starting to Talk, that was one of the things we produced. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I'd forgotten about that publication, the talk. Yeah, that was done by the committee, yeah.
Okay, great. And I think that's about it. We're done all our items on the agenda. And yes, Mario?
Just one thing before I forget again. The individual we dealt with in 2001 was Jim Morris. And he was dealing exclusively with that. He had a large interest in the zone hospital grounds.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, Clifford, Chief Clifford.
Yeah, I think pretty much everybody knows Jim Morris. He's the head of SLEFNA now, Silicon First Nations Health Authority, and he spoke at the event we had on the 14th. So he has information, searches. I believe there was another person there, Mr. Beardy, that were involved in the searches years ago. And he certainly has a lot of information for sure. And that's why he has a vested interest in continuing the work that others started, and including himself, years ago. And he does have information. So we know Jim Morris very well. Thank you.
All right. Okay. All right. Okay, I think we covered everything, the work plan. That's pretty much it for this
Yeah,
meeting.
yeah, just one more thing. We did raise the flag on the Aboriginal Day, but maybe that was discussed at the last meeting, but I just wanted to thank the mayor for that flag raising event at the park there.
Yes, Mayor.
Yeah, and we took it down again because Chief Bull and I sort of temporarily rigged it and we put it up. And thankfully we took it down to install some grommets on it to raise it again. But thankfully, because the windstorm sure ripped the shreds out of some of the flags, and it would have flown to Thunder Bay. It had been up there the way we put it up. Michelle?
Yes, so the grommets I believe I gave the flag last Wednesday or Thursday to Richard to have put back up at the TIC. And just a note on the flags themselves, we've, to let the committee know, we ordered 2 more flagpoles to be able to facilitate the flying of the Lac Seul flag here in front of the town hall, along with our other flags as well. So they've been ordered and they should be in the next while, and we'll get those up and start flying our flags together.
Just before, there's Mario. Go ahead.
Yes, Mario.
All I was going to say was, going back to what I said before, is there any way that this committee can be informed of any events like this? So we can, this committee can support the municipalities and Lac Seul First Nations presentation or whatever. Just,
I think normally we are, but the Lac Seul event, as Chief Bull said, came together remarkably quickly. And believe it or not, we were still, I suppose, working under the constraints of COVID. Yeah. 307 people in one place was probably stretching things, and it was everybody had to be screened to go in and whatever. So, and I think the First Nation did a remarkable job of getting that many people in, and still honoring the COVID. The chairs were spaced out, etc. I mean, it was difficult, but I take your point, Mario. Yeah.
I just wanted to add, I watched it online. So if there was a feed that we can go on to, that's the only reason why, like I found out at 1 o'clock and then I went to the feed, Marlo Bow, she sent me the feed and I went through that, and that's how I got to watch it. I'm really glad that I watched it.
Okay. Yes, Michelle.
Through you, Chair Darlene. Yeah, if we get, the mayor and I were invited by specific invitation, so we didn't broadcast it because it wasn't our event. But if we receive that information of any other gatherings or any other meetings like that in advance, and especially if it's a live feed, for other people to participate by watching it on the internet or what have you, we'll certainly pass that information on to the committee.
All right. And Aileen, you wanted to say something? No? Okay. All right, that's great. Okay, so it looks like our next meeting date says August 16th, but it's supposed to be the 23rd.
Right.
Yeah, so 23rd, August 23rd at 5 o'clock. And I guess I'd like to thank Garnet for coming to our meeting, and it was good to see you, and good to have your input on a lot of the things that we discussed here.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Miigwech.
I think you're an honorary member of our committee anyway. Yeah. Okay, so motion to adjourn. Who would like to make the motion? Mario and Chief Clifford. So we'll see you again August 23rd. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.